Yes, sir.
Hey, folks, welcome to another episode of your favorite indie wrestling talk show, Shoots Fired. I am joined by David McKinney of South Atlanta Wrestling. How you doing tonight, man?
Cannot complain.
So, you do a website, a very well-written website, and you are you a journalist? Or are you just someone who enjoys wrestling? Where do you see yourself?
I am just a fan. I tend to think of myself as a terrible writer. I enjoy tweeting a lot more, which I do a ton of. I like that medium a lot better. I don't like editing my stuff, I have no professional training whatsoever. I failed my writing test trying to get into school to be a teacher. I got a business degree instead, so writing not my thing. But I finally kind of got to the point where I quit trying to write like a writer and just tried to write like I speak, and that seems to work okay for me. I get the point across at least.
Well, one thing I
So
really like about you is, especially on your Twitter, you have some of the most reasonable wrestling takes. Your stuff
yeah,
is logical and makes sense, and it's like good people type stuff.
I try to, if nothing else. Now there are some times when I'm blatantly trolling, which usually is just for humorous effect. I
Yes.
will admit that, but I try not to be like too outlandish. I try to be reasonable, and I try to at least like when I'm not just blatantly trolling, I try to be the kind of guy that people would say I can sit down and talk with that guy, and I may not agree with everything he says, but I can at least see where he's coming from.
Yeah, yeah.
So
That's very important in life, because I don't see how these people who just sit there and blow up about everything on social media, how they deal with business in their day to day lives.
it's got to be exhausting, man. I
Because
don't
I
get it.
mean, reacting to everything, and I'm not going to say Bullet Club, but it's almost like that Bullet Club mentality where you get the shirts and you want to be like, I'm super cool and I'm smarter than you and I know more about wrestling than you. That's got to be
Yeah,
like a job.
yeah, and like I never ever talk about my resume as a wrestling fan, which is probably similar to yours. The only time I ever talk about it is when somebody tries the, oh, you like so and so, so you must be a casual fan who doesn't know anything about the business. It's like, well, actually I've watched since 1985, like probably before you were born,
Mhm.
and I'm a huge fan, and just because I like, a wrestler like Roman Reigns and you don't makes doesn't make me less of a fan. That
That's
doesn't make
hard.
me a better fan either, but
Yeah, well, people think because you like Roman, you're like a mark, and you're just some guy who buys t-shirts. And Roman's a great wrestler.
I would agree.
He's almost a total. Now his mic work is not the best, but
Yeah.
he's an incredible athlete. He's been
Well,
having some of the best matches ever.
I agree. I mean, I think he's like a next level, like at the selling aspect of it. I
Yes.
mean, I can't remember how many times I've watched a match he was in where his most hardcore fans were like, "Oh, I think he's injured. I think he's hurt." And Buddy's walking around backstage. He's perfectly fine. He's just
Mhm.
part of the show. Uh, yeah, definitely. Roman. I've never claimed that he's always been a great on the mic. I think he has grown into that role though through
Yes.
the years. I think letting him kind of show more of his actual personality instead of just like, cutting room John Cena promos, like it's stuff that was on the cutting room floor.
Mhm.
I think that helped. But even if you don't think he's a great promo, to me, he was a good enough promo,
Well, a lot
the
of the
way I would
guys
look
that
at it.
we expect great promos, they came up in a different generation. I mean, The Rock even worked in Memphis,
Right.
so they come in from a different business,
Sure.
and they learned how to talk a different way. And Roman basically was such a great athlete, he got a spot that somebody else would have learned more about talking to get, and or you would have had to have been a better talker to get that spot. But Roman's, I mean, he's a genetic freak. He's
Yep.
a college football player. I know you saw him at Tech.
hmm I know.
Uh,
I know. I saw him play. I saw him play live at least once. It was a Virginia Tech Georgia Tech game at Bobby Dodd. I know
mhm,
I saw him play live at least once. I verified that.
yeah,
It's I didn't touch on it in that piece I wrote, but it's kind of funny because although I knew this guy was a wrestler, I'm sorry, from a wrestling family, it never crossed my mind when he was at Georgia Tech that he would end up wrestling. Like, how dumb is
yeah,
that? I mean, obviously he might wrestle, right?
yeah.
Never crossed my mind. And I knew who Roman Reigns was before I realized he was Joe Anawai. So I was like, oh. And I was like, I put it together one day and I was like, oh, that's really cool.
Yeah. See, I'm a Georgia graduate. I am always pull against Tech. I can't lie
I
because
don't
I
blame
grew
you.
up an Auburn fan in Birmingham, and people that don't understand the Alabama football mentality, you
Right.
can't explain it to them because it's life or
Yeah.
death over there.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned that because I'm I was born in Atlanta and have lived my whole life just south of Atlanta. So I
Uh,
get a lot of the, you must be a bandwagon fan if you're an Alabama fan. Well, what happened there was my mom was from West Alabama.
yes.
She lived in a little town called Reform,
Hmm.
Alabama. So
Yeah.
she raised me as an Alabama fan, even though I was born here. So I do actually know an Alabama coach besides just Bear Bryant and Nick Saban. I promise you, I'm the real deal. I didn't just come along when Nick Saban started winning all these national
Yeah.
titles. So yeah, it's a totally different beast there, no
Yeah,
doubt.
it's those people just take that so seriously. I grew up over there. I wound up getting into college at Georgia, and I stayed at Georgia, and I never went home. Um, so I became a Georgia fan. It's sometimes hard to be a Georgia fan
Yeah,
because until recently, it doesn't seem like they've really taken it seriously since 1980.
yeah,
And I have to hear 1980 one more time, and it's like
yeah,
I want a
yeah.
T-shirt. Can we just get a T-shirt? Can we get me a national championship T-shirt?
I respect that. I went to Clayton State. We don't have a football team, so
Yeah, I got a lot of friends that went to Clayton State. It's a cool little place down there.
nothing
Uh,
wrong with it. I went when you could still go like treat it like a commuter college. You didn't like now if you're a freshman, I think you have to stay on campus. I never did. I stayed at home and just drove over there. So
Yeah. My
it was a
daughter did
perfectly good school.
she did an orchestra camp there a couple of years ago. The Lakers are their mascot, right?
Yes, sir. Yeah.
It's a good little
Uh
camp.
yeah, they got a Loch Ness monster as the actual physical mascot because they are the Lakers. They got a because they have a lake. Maybe it should be the Laker. I don't know. They've got one lake that I'm aware of. So yeah, it's a pretty cool. It's a pretty campus.
Yeah.
It really is. People would find that hard to believe. You'd say, "Oh, I go to this school in Morrow, Georgia," and I said, "Well, it's a really beautiful campus." You may not believe me, but it's true. It's a pretty campus.
Well, there's a lot of isolated pockets of the old South in that area. You can come across
Absolutely.
old cemeteries and things like that, and it's just like
Mm.
things haven't changed in 100 years.
Yeah, there's a kind of near there. There's a McDonald's and Steak and Shake, and like right behind the McDonald's is the cemetery. And it's like the people who put that cemetery had no idea how big that area was going to
Yeah.
be. I
Oh
mean,
yeah.
right there off of 75, it's crazy. So
Mm-hmm. Yep. It's a neat area down there, and you get to a lot of the really cool restaurants we don't get up here in Gwinnett.
yeah, that's good. Yeah, I'm digging Culver's the most right now.
We have a Culver's. I haven't tried it yet.
I like it. It's good. Good stuff.
I'm since I've been on this low carb diet, I've been trying to avoid, and I still have
Okay.
to eat fast food because
I'm sorry.
it's 2018.
Yeah. Don't try it. It's terrible. Forget it. Forget all about it. All right. Do not get the custard. The frozen custard is horrible. You will not
Yes.
enjoy it. Do not get the butter pecan. Do not get the Georgia peach. Don't get any of that stuff. So that's what
So
it's really the best thing there. Actually, the
yeah.
burgers are okay. It's the cheese curds as a side, and then those frozen,
Oh.
then the frozen custard. That's
Mhm.
really the game changers for that place. The burgers are fine. They're
Yeah.
not great.
Yeah. So I see your Action Wrestling shirt. That's a
Yes,
promotion
sir.
that's been doing a lot of cool things lately.
Yeah, it's a go ahead.
Tell me more about it.
Well, I mean, it's all for charity. So like it's not the official tagline, but I've used it in a couple of the articles, quality wrestling for quality causes. And that's really been what they've been doing. Their next show on December 7th is for Toys for Tots,
Uh,
which is important to Matt Griffin, the CEO, because he was a Marine.
yeah.
So, uh, they've done one for Make a Wish, Georgia. They've done one for CASA, which was for the judicial system, helping kids in need there. They've done one for Bloom, which was foster care. Uh, they did a really cool thing. So Bloom was trying to get 500 shoes for this last show. That was the other day. They wanted 500 new pairs of shoes for foster kids. So Action said, you know what? Bring your shoes here. But not only that, we'll give you a shirt if you bring a pair of shoes. We took 3 pairs of shoes over there and got 3 shirts. They
Wow.
didn't limit it in any sort of way. They were willing to give away all their shirts if they could get enough shoes. So very cool, very cool. Uh, I always felt good about it ever since I had heard about the uh, premise of Action. I felt pretty good about it because I felt like Matt was the kind of guy that could had access to quality talent, and so far that has absolutely been the case. So
Yeah, I've seen the cards. They get a good bunch of wrestlers in there.
yeah, it's really special. Like one of my favorite anecdotes is very first show I had heard of Cam Carter out of North Carolina, didn't know much about him, so let's check him out. So we go to the first show, and it's intermission. I go over to use the restroom or whatever. And my son is standing in line. I'm like, "What are you doing, boy?" And he's like, "I want to meet this guy." So he had seen Cam Carter wrestle once and was like immediately just like, I want to go shake this guy's hand. I was like, "Hey, knock yourself out." So
That's cool.
unfortunately, he wasn't able to make the last show. But yeah, it's been really special. Even things like the very first show opening. I mean, the very first match in Action Wrestling history was Joey Lynch and AC Mack. I mean,
Wow.
talk about two guys like Joey can flat go. He's got the great look. People are going to gravitate towards him. And AC Mack has got the great look, can go, and he's going to irritate the absolute heck out of an arena.
He
And
is a
he
master
absolutely
at that.
did.
He is a
Oh man,
master at that. I'm a
he
huge fan of his.
he. I can't tell you I'm a fan. I can't tell you a fan, but I'll tell you that I am very happy to plunk down my $15 for my seat to be right there to boo that man. So let's
Yes,
put it
yes,
that way.
yes, yes.
How
That's the
about
best
that?
way to put it. The best compliment you could give him is to buy a ticket to hate him.
Yeah, it's like somebody told me that Austin Aries was a great bad guy the other day because everybody hates him. I was like, the problem is, you tell me Austin Aries is going to be on TV, I'm not watching. If you tell me AC Mack's going to be over here in Tyrone, Georgia for Action, I'm paying my money and I'm going over there and I'm going to give that guy the business. So that's the difference for me.
So that's the
AC
close. Is that
is
the closest show to you, to where you
yes,
live?
sir.
Cool.
Yes, sir. And the other thing about it is I graduated high school from Sandy Creek High School in Tyrone. I grew up in the North Fayette area. And if you grew up in the North Fayette area of Fayetteville, Georgia, in the North Fayette County, you went over to Sandy Creek High School in
Mm.
Tyrone. So it's a special area for us. Like my church is over there. It's like 2/10 of a mile from Action's building.
Wow.
So my grandparents moved to Tyrone back in 1985. So it's the closest, and it's just a very special area for us. I say us because my buddy Norco, who's my partner on South Atlanta Wrestling, also went to Sandy Creek. Also lives in the north. He still lives over there in the North Fayette area. And it's like we never could have dreamed that we'd have quality wrestling like this in our home county. And it's like now it's happening. So
Yeah, that's a blessing. That's a blessing. Because in
uh,
Gwinnett, we have no wrestling. We
really,
have QT Marshall in his school, but
okay,
that's a wrestling school. It's not a full time promotion. They do shows, but you don't get like a regular monthly show.
right.
And that's the only people that run in Gwinnett, pretty much.
That's crazy for a county that big. But
Yeah.
and that was the thing. Like West Georgia has them and all that. But it's like I just came from Tyrone, not from an action show, but we were doing something at the church, doing something at church. Went to eat on the way home and all that. I mean, it's an area, even though it's 30 minutes from where I actually live, it's just an area that feels like home to us. So
Mhm.
going to an action show, it doesn't feel like an ordeal to me, like mentally going to some other town that
Yeah.
I have no connection to. Like I can go see a show in McDonough, Georgia, that's fine, but it's a pretty long drive and I have no connection to that area. So yeah, action being right there in Tyrone is really special. And they've got a couple shows coming up, but like one thing that really blew me away is they announced that they're going to run a show in my high school alma mater of Sandy Creek High School, where Calvin Johnson played football.
Wow.
Now, I'm older than Calvin, so I wasn't there with him, but uh, my sister and brother-in-law and cousins all were there at Sandy Creek with Calvin Johnson. So their Action's going to be running a show right there at Sandy Creek High School in March. So very excited about that. That's like a dream come true.
Yeah, I can only imagine. I can
Yeah.
only imagine.
It sounds corny, but it's just neat. Like I haven't been to that school in years. Like me and Norco went to a football game a couple of years ago, so but I have not set foot inside the school in years. So it'd be really cool to go back. I graduated in '96, so it'll be cool to go back and sit in the gym that we used to have to run laps around the top of and get to see some quality wrestling. Pretty
Yeah,
neat.
oh, definitely, definitely.
Yeah.
See, I went to a school in Alabama that was so small it's closed now, and I moved to to Georgia. I stayed in Gwinnett County. I had my first wife was a North Gwinnett graduate.
Wow.
My girlfriend I've been with 7 or 8 years now graduated a year after her. Nick, who I met through my current girlfriend, was a North Gwinnett graduate. All my friends are North Gwinnett graduates. My kids go to North Gwinnett now. Terry Lawler, Terry and Steve Lawler, the
Yeah.
famous Georgia wrestlers went there. Can't remember the guy from Fozzy. Rich Ward went there. So it's my adopted school, and I would love to have wrestling come into that place.
It'd be very cool, wouldn't it? Yeah. It's funny you talk about Terry Lawler. I think I was at a show. Norco got us hooked up with Lance Dreamer, who used to work Wildside years
Uh,
ago, and he said, "Hey, I want y'all to come up and record some of these shows so I can kind of watch them back." It was NGWA out of Canton, out of that old school gym up there,
yeah.
and they told me that the good guys walking out one side, bad guys walking out the other side. So I'm there with my camera at the side the bad guys supposed to walk out. Well, nobody had told me they had changed that. So he's sitting in the bleachers. I hear him whistle at me, and he looks at me like I'm a dummy, which I mean I am a dummy. So no, he's like over here. So I almost missed the entrance because thought I was at the right
Mm,
place, and I was standing on the exact opposite door that I was supposed to be at to watch the guys come out. So
mm.
I appreciated him letting me know that at least.
Yes. Oh, yes.
I've never spoken to the man other than that, but that was my one brush with that. So kind of
If
funny.
you ever do get a chance, he is probably the nicest guy in wrestling.
That's really
And
cool. I always like to hear that.
he's also probably one of the nicest guys on earth. That's one thing I've got to give that guy. He is super cool.
Here,
Um, I love
yeah,
hearing
here's
about
a
guys like that. You know.
yeah. I always my thing is I'm never too hurt when I hear that like somebody who's well known is not the nicest person, but it's always nice to hear that a well known person is nice. You know what I mean? Like I don't
Yes.
hold it against them if they're not because I get it. But when you hear that, oh, that guy's really a nice guy, it's always good to hear.
Yeah, I met my childhood hero, Tom Pritchard, last November at WrestleCade, and
Dr. Tom.
he was cool and was really nice to me. And I'm like, wow, because I could have, he could have been anything. He could have blown me off. But the fact that somebody I thought was so cool as a child was actually cool to me as an adult, I was really touched by that.
Yeah, it's amazing, isn't it? Like it. I have a memory. I see Paul Orndorff autograph
Yep.
behind you there, I
Yep.
believe. Paul Orndorff owned a bowling alley in Fayetteville, Georgia, where I grew up.
Uh-huh.
So Fayette Fun Bowl was owned by Paul Orndorff at one time, and I don't remember what age we were. It was when he was kind of semi-retired, or after his WWF run at least. Maybe he was with WCW. I remember he walked through past us, because we were like a birthday party there, and he said in the deepest voice I think I've ever heard, "Gentlemen, how are you?" Like that, and he just kept on walking, and that was it. And I was like, "That's Mister Wonderful." It just blew
Yeah.
me away. So I couldn't
I
tell you he was
saw
a nice guy from that exchange, but it was just kind of funny just to
I
like
saw
get to
him
see
up
someone like that.
at Superstar show in Rome last month, and he
Hmm.
looks bad. He is
Yeah,
on his last leg, but I was glad I was able to get that autograph. You
yeah.
know,
I hate that for him. I hate that for him.
well,
I
our
also saw,
heroes are dying.
yeah,
Our
well, it's
childhood
true.
heroes.
I also saw the Iron Sheik in traffic court down here in Fayetteville, Georgia.
Cheeky baby,
Sure did.
I humble
Yeah,
you.
yeah. I sure did. I didn't see him say two words, but he was asked repeatedly to take his hat off, and he kept putting it back on. That's my Iron Sheik story. I'm sitting in traffic court. My I had insurance, but the card had expired.
uh,
Something like that. Something dumb like that. And he had a hat on. The judge said, "Please remove your hat, sir." He took it right off. A couple minutes later, he put it back on. Judge said, "Sir, please remove your hat." I don't think he said anything. He took it back off. This might happen one more time after that. And I'm like,
yeah.
oh man, come on. So
So you're a wrestling fan first. I can tell that you mark out about stuff like that. It's good to hear that kind of stuff. There's a
oh
lot of
yeah,
people that are in the wrestling that are wrestling related, because I don't consider myself in the business. I consider me wrestling related. A lot of people get really serious about this and think they're special, but
yeah,
I'm a fan first. That's
yeah.
all I am.
Okay, so like the action thing, we can talk about that for a second. Like I pushed it so hard. I know people thought like I was involved. Like I'm not involved. I'm a fan who Matt knew through Twitter. Matt Griffin, the CEO,
Uh,
knew through Twitter. I hang some posters for him, in like the Noonan area just to try to
yeah,
expand the reach there. And then now I have my site has been a sponsor of two shows. I mean that's it. Like
mm,
I'm not again. I'm just like you. I'm a fan. I pay for my tickets. It's
right,
not I'm not in the, and I'm not trying to act like I'm in the business, Like I'm a
yeah,
fan and I am a okay with it. That's all I want to be. Just want to be a
yeah,
fan. I just want to go enjoy some wrestling, and that's it.
yeah.
I'm
I
not trying to
helped
put on the airs otherwise.
exactly. I helped out with sound one time at a Southern Fried Show, and they gave me the run sheet, and I'm like,
Oh,
oh my god, this is the run this is what's going to happen. This is not fun anymore.
Yeah, when me and Norco we considered that we worked in the business, the closest we ever came was that NGWA stuff with Lance
Uh,
Dreamer, and I think it was 3 shows before that Lance and the promoter had a falling out, and I think somebody else is running that building now. And we didn't get paid anything, but we got in for free. We
yeah,
got to film it. I got to be security one day. That was pretty cool.
yeah.
I got when I say security, I had to tell little kids to get away from the apron, you know. And my shining moment in the business, quote unquote, was helping a guy to the back. He'd gotten thrown out of the ring, and the owner looks at me and says, "Hey, help me help him up." And I was like, "All right, hey, there you go. That's it." So, you know, never been in the business, probably will never be in the business, but that was my brush with being in the business. So,
Mm,
it was really cool. It gave
yeah.
me a story to tell at least.
Oh, definitely. Now I noticed a lot
So,
of comic book movie type news on your site.
yeah. Yeah, part of the reason I do that in all seriousness is I just was totally honest about it. It's like I figure if you'd come by my site, you deserve to see something new. So I may not have anything I want to write about that day, but hey, this
Mm-hmm.
trailer just came out.
Mm-hmm.
Check it out. You might think it's cool. So any movie I think is cool, I may throw a trailer up there on a day that I don't feel like writing about wrestling because it's not my job. So
Yeah,
I do that. So like I think I just posted the Bohemian Rhapsody, the Queen,
yeah.
Freddie Mercury biopic trailer. I just want you to have something to look at while you're there. I don't want people to ever feel like they've wasted their time swinging by the site. So
Mhm.
it's just kind of a little, hey, I give you a little something at least.
That's cool. That's cool. Multimedia culture and that kind of thing to get people, give them something to look at. That's awesome. That's a good concept.
Yeah, I mean, just give them something like. And if you ever notice, like those, I never tweet out the links to because that's not really about trying to get people to come to the site. It's more of a, hey, while you're here, I'm sorry I don't have anything I have written about since the last thing I wrote about, but you can check out this trailer while you're here before you head on, or you know what, I kind of like this song, check it out. And it's
Cool.
just something to kind of reward people for swinging by.
Yeah.
I figure it's better than nothing.
Yeah, that's really cool, man. Now I've seen you at SCI. I went
Yes,
not this year, but the last year. I saw you there. I didn't know who you were, but I recognized
I
the
yeah,
beard and the
I wish we
hat.
could have met then. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
That I was there for the first night, and I thought it was wonderful.
Oh
Uh,
yeah.
I thought that was it's just such a great concept.
Uh,
Uh,
they, they, and that's one of the reasons I knew, Matt was up there doing some stuff with them, whatever he was doing. That's his story to tell. I don't know how he's involved, but I knew he was up there doing something. And that was one reason I was so confident that he was going to get, knowing that he had some inroads with that outfit. I figured, well, he's got to have access to some pretty good talent, I'm guessing. So,
mm,
uh, yeah, SCI is a great deal. I finally went, I think in 2016 I saw the big like family reunion photo of all of wrestling Twitter, and I thought, man, I want in on that. So I went in 17, SCI 17, and was blown away by it. Not just the wrestling, but like the whole atmosphere, like the family reunion for wrestling weirdos aspect of it.
yeah, yeah.
Staying at the Best Western Heritage Inn and all that. And I've been to every SCI Scenic City event since then, and we're going to be at the one. We're going to be at Trios as well in November.
Mm.
So
Yeah, I had a
looking forward to
great
that.
time. I wish I could have stayed. It was the weekend before my kids started school, so I
Uh,
jetted up there, caught the Saturday, and came back home. Uh,
it is bad timing. My wife is a school teacher. It is
yeah,
she's a parapro right now, but yeah, she works in a school, so it's terrible timing for us down here because that's when school starts for us too. Luckily, I have a boss that's very flexible and I can make it work.
mm.
But yeah, it's kind of bad timing. But man, it's such a good time.
It was fun because I stopped at the what city diner, had a couple
Yes,
meals
sir.
there, watched the wrestling people. That's back when Charles Anschutz of Southern Fried was still
Yes.
alive, and I got to sit next to him at a table, and I had a table next to him. I wasn't at his table, and just
Yeah.
saw him interacting with people and the whole AWE set that was there, and just watching
Yeah.
wrestling people together was so cool.
It's so. I mean, I've written a story about it, but like, and sometimes I don't like to name names because I don't want to but it's funny. Like I'm standing out at the pool and I'm arguing, not arguing like in an ugly way, but like I said, hey, I like to see you wrestle in such and such promotion. I saw you wrestle against so and so, and he's like, no, I wrestled against this other guy, and I'm like, no, I'm pretty sure you, And of course I look at the results. Of course the wrestler was right about who he wrestled, like obviously, and so. I saw him a year later and I apologized to him. I'm like, I'm sorry. I don't know what I was thinking, arguing. He's like, it's cool, man. Not a big deal. So it's really neat, and I think it's a very cool event, and the fact that most of the fans, so far as I can tell, can you know shake hands with the wrestlers, but understand the boundaries and try not to
Yeah.
bother the guys. I think is really neat. So it's a really fun event. I mean, I recommend anybody go to it. One, I mean, just an absolute. I went, this year, like I said, and it was just incredible. I mean, had a great weekend. Me and Norco went, and I did all the extracurriculars, and just, I mean, it was just like so nice just to not worry about the real world and just enjoy some
Yeah.
wrestling and some fellowship. It was great.
Yeah,
So
wrestling to me is an escape, like video games or comic books or movies or anything like that. It's my hiding place from the real world.
that's I think you and I look at it the same way, and I think that's one reason I try not to sit there and get online and argue about it too much anymore. That's one reason I mean, this is obviously not anywhere in the same realm as worrying about the man's life, but that's what made the Roman Reigns news such a, heart wrenching thing for me. It's like here the real world is trampling on this make believe world, this fantasy world that we
Yeah.
enjoy. It's like, and I think Michael Cole's comments were something similar to that, full
Mhm.
credit to him, but it's like, they're putting on a show, and now it's like the real world's intruded on there, just like, Magnum TA's car accident, which
Yeah.
Magnum TA was one of my favorite wrestlers.
Yeah.
And, being a little kid and finding out that, your favorite wrestler's never going to wrestle again. And then finding out, that arm, he can't really use that. And, he may not walk and this, that, and the other. And by the way, I've never met the man, but everything about Magnum TA screams just pleasant individual. And I think that's awesome. I'm so glad to see that.
Yeah.
I've never heard a bad word about him. He looks like a guy that enjoys life. So, you know,
Yeah.
good,
I saw
good
him at,
deal for
at
him.
WrestleGate. I did not interact with him, but he was there. He has to ride a Segway for mobility. But the thing that touches me the most about him is he raised Tessa Blanchard as his child, and she credits him as being a father. And being a father is probably the most challenging job on earth. So he did well at that, and that
Yeah.
speaks volumes to me.
Yeah, I think it's incredible. Like right now tonight, I'll be honest with you, I'm having a little bit of a issue. Me and the wife are having a little bit of an issue with one of our kids, and they're frustrating. You love them, but man,
Oh
they are
yeah,
frustrating.
yeah.
But
So
yeah, I just think it's awesome that someone who went through what like Magnum went through, and just to see him look and all the pictures I see, and I could be totally wrong. Maybe he's just putting a brave face on. I don't know. He just seems like a pleasant individual, kind of
mhm,
like Ricky Steamboat. You interact with him on Twitter. He just seems like the
yes,
nicest guy. And
yeah,
this guy's accomplished this, that, and the other, and he you know, just comes across as a kind individual, and I just respect the heck out of that. I wish I could be
yeah.
more like that, to be honest with
Oh, yeah, it's tough sometimes. It's tough sometimes to
you.
kind of
Very tough
like
for me.
I have a stepson that's about to turn 18. I've got a daughter that's 15, and
Wow.
raising kids is so tough, and
Yeah.
not fighting with your spouse about not killing the kids is hard.
Yes, buddy, I understand. So you got some sympathy here for me. I totally get it, man. I had all these ideas about how I would, how to be when I raise when I raise my children, we won't
Yes.
scream at them. Like, yeah, okay.
No.
The thing that dawned on me the most, and my parents are great, and both my parents are still with us, and they're just wonderful people. And so don't take this as painting them in a bad light, because they were very patient with me and my nonsense. Not that I was a bad kid, but like it's like one thing I noticed when I got older and got in their shoes, I understood why like little things sent them over the edge now.
Yes.
Because it wasn't really about whatever I was doing. It was like I was the straw that broke the camel's back
Yes.
because they're worried about the mortgage or the job or whatever. So
Oh
I
yeah.
have a new appreciation for my parents.
The thing I said, I'm never going to say because I said so.
Yeah.
And the first time I said because I said so to my daughter, it was heartbreaking. But it's like, well, I said that. That's
Understood. I get it. I mean, there's a reason that everybody says it.
Mhm.
It's not for no reason, right?
Yes.
So
Yep. Yeah, I get that, man. So growing up in Atlanta, you got to watch the 605 show, right?
correct.
Man, I am so
Yes.
I that's one thing I've always been jealous of. We did not have that in Birmingham.
Yeah, the original tagline for South Atlanta Wrestling, I don't really use it on anything anymore, but it's still there, is blame Dad, Ric Flair, and Ted Turner,
Yeah.
because I hated Ric Flair when I was a kid because you're a kid and you're supposed to. But I
Yeah.
fell in love with wrestling because I watched it every Saturday because Dad had it on.
Mm,
I've never been able to nail down exactly when I started watching. It was anywhere between like 80, let's see, 83 and 86, somewhere around there.
mm.
Like kindergarten through first grade
Yeah.
probably. And I mean, it's true. And like the other thing in Atlanta was we had that Joe Pedicino wrestling
Yeah.
block, that 6 or 8 hours or whatever it was.
Yes.
And when I was a little bit older, I would stay up till midnight and watch Memphis wrestling with Dad, and that was always an absolute hoot. I mean,
Oh yeah.
back when the Moondogs with Richard Lee,
Hmm.
he'd blow that whistle the entire time they're out there just beating the absolute, garbage out of some poor guys. It was, I mean, quite the situation. So
Yes.
that was the Joe Pedicino. Actually, he was running his radio station out of Sonoya, Georgia, which is where I live,
Uh-huh.
which is famous for where The Walking Dead's filmed.
Yes.
And
Yes.
they recently moved up to Fayetteville, Georgia, which is actually where I'm from. But so yeah, Joe Pedicino used to be around here. I ran into him on a restaurant that we don't have in Sonoy anymore. There's still one in Noonan called the Redneck Gourmet, and I didn't speak to him. I'm not one to bother people. So, but it was kind of neat to see Joe Pedicino. It's like, hey, there's
Yeah.
like a real living like piece of my childhood sitting right there. So
Yeah.
it's kind of neat.
Oh, definitely, definitely. I grew up on Continental and WE
Uh,
syndicated because that's all we got in Birmingham because you couldn't get cable where I lived. But
gotcha.
we saw the Moondogs. The
Yes.
Moondogs were all over Continental for a time, and they were so believable and just you thought they were mad, wild men. That's something
Yeah.
that they don't get enough credit, man.
Yeah. I mean, it's an over the top gimmick that they completely made work, kind of like Kamala. Kamala
Yes.
is like a completely absurd gimmick. That guy is nothing like that. But you watched it and thought, yeah, that's legit. I
Yeah.
mean, it's nuts. Like
Amen.
it doesn't, you know it's not, but like they just put their all into it. You're right. Those guys looked like guys who had never been trained to function
Mhm.
in a society,
Oh yeah,
and they behaved that same exact way.
man. I'm looking at all those figures. How did you get started collecting wrestling figures?
I never stopped buying them when I was a kid.
Oh,
Basically, that's it. Like this is actually a fraction of my collection. I'm kind of glancing around the room right now. This is just a fraction of my collection. I've got a bunch still in boxes and whatnot.
uh,
Uh, I said this earlier, but I think I've got a box here next to me of elites and some stuff. Some of them are some value buys. I go to Ollie's. You get stuff for about half
yeah,
off at Ollie's. Find some good stuff there. So I just I love toys, to be honest with you. And
yeah.
at some point, I decided just to try to bring my costs down in space. I said I've got to focus on just one, and I just settled on wrestling figures. I will say lately I've dabbled in the comic book figures a little more
Yeah.
again, but I'm trying not to. I'm trying to just wrestling figures. And if you ever see one of my posts about wrestling figures, which I'll
Yeah.
probably do one this week because I just had Ringside Fest, my list of figures I want to buy is always much bigger than the figures I actually buy. So I'll go through a list and I may give you 10 that I'm absolutely going to buy. And by the time they actually hit the shelves, I'll end up buying like four of them.
Mm,
So unfortunately, I don't have the money or space to buy all the ones I want. But,
yeah. Well, who do you
I
look for?
can't.
Who's your favorite one to buy?
Honestly, this will not be a surprise to most people. I've got several versions of Roman Reigns.
Mm.
And a big part of that is because you get different head scans. Like the original ones didn't look that great, but with him, you've got so many different vests and then different belts. So
Mm.
like for example, I tried to pass on the blue vest with the U.S. title, and then I finally saw it at Walmart enough times. Like, okay, I have to have it,
Yeah.
so I got it. Uh, I think they just at Ringside Fest they just debuted the red vest for the Intercontinental title,
Mm.
and it comes with the swappable hand, so he can do, this deal right here,
Oh wow.
which is very cool.
Yeah.
That's something the elites are doing. That's gonna be very neat. They're gonna come with like multiple heads. Like I think there's a Nia Jax coming out. It's gonna have three different heads that you can
Wow.
pop, like braided look. It's like braided look, like full on bushy hair, and then one other. I don't recall which the other one was. So they're getting into that kind of thing that I think they've been doing with some of their other lines in the past. So
That's
they're
cool.
also doing, yeah, they're also doing chase ones. Like I saw one. I think there's a going to be a Dean Ambrose basic figure that's going to be like just all black clothes, and then there's going to be one that's like with the new Shield logo on it. But they're going to like there'll only be maybe one of those in every two cases or whatever. There'll be far
Mm.
less of those. So they're doing the same thing with maybe a Shelton Benjamin. Either it's a chase or it's a maybe an exclusive where you can get his current kind of bald look or his gold standard look. Different heads. So they're doing things to try to keep it interesting. The build a figure thing they like to do as well,
Yeah, they do
which
that
always
with
kills
comic book.
me.
They do that with comic book figures a lot.
Yes, sir.
We
So
do
they
the
got that.
heart. Yeah.
Yeah, it's aggravating because my biggest problem with the build a figures, there's a lot of them I don't really want to take them out of the package. Because it's
See,
a lot easier for
that would
me.
kill me. That would kill me not taking them out of the package.
Well, it's like that WCW one they've got coming out with Luger and Sting and I think Flair in a suit and forgive me, I can't. Oh, it might be Harlem Heat, Booker T. And it's like I would love to have all those, and I'd love to leave them on the card so I could just pin them up on my wall. But then, like, if I open them, I can make a JJ Dillon figure. I think is what it is. So it's like I want to open them, but I don't want to open them. But it's a real struggle. Of course, these are the kind of problems I have, like not real problems. So I
Yeah,
guess I should be
that's the
pretty
best.
happy.
When your life has those kind of problems, that's the
Yeah,
best time.
yeah.
Something's right.
But I tell you what I will do, and I'll try to do this pretty soon. Is I'll go around this room and I'll take some pictures of all the figures that are on display and put them up on the site so you can check them
That's
out.
awesome. That's awesome because
Yeah.
I never collected wrestling figures. I collected GI Joes, collected Transformers,
Oh, very
um,
cool.
and the thing is, I gave both of those collections away to people 10 years ago who were super collectors who were still doing it actively. And I'm like, here, you're treating these, you're going to treat these toys better than I am, just sitting in my garage.
Nice.
And
Um,
they did a good thing. If I were to get with wrestling figures now, I don't think I could help myself because they are so good.
uh, there was a guy who was trying to sell his collection and he wanted to. What was the deal? He wanted. There's those. I don't know what you call. I cannot think of the name of them, but the Japanese figures. That he had a Bruiser Brody that I'd seen everywhere for $100, and he was trying to turn it loose for $50. I got all the way to the pay screen before I said I can't spend $50 on this figure. But man, I wanted that thing so bad. I
Mhm.
wanted that figure so doggone bad. I was literally on PayPal on my phone about to hit him up and say, "Yeah, give it to me right now."
Yeah.
And I was like, "Nah, I can't do it. Cannot justify it." So, you know, gotta
Um,
deny myself something, I guess.
yeah, I actually did business with an auction house down near you, Gleaton's.
Oh,
Uh,
my dad loves that place.
yes, and
Yes.
I bought some old stereo equipment, and that's my weakness is buying old stereo equipment. Even if I don't even put it up, I still like to get it, look at it because I always wanted a stereo as a kid.
I
One of
respect that.
those big stereos like everybody had at the time.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Gleaton's is about 20 minutes from where I sit right now, which is in my house in
yeah,
Sonoya. We're about 20 minutes from there, 20, 25
yeah,
minutes.
yeah.
Yeah, I got to go to a birthday party for one of my nephews or something, and mom and dad hit me up with hey, can you help us go pick something up? We went over to Gleaton's and they had this huge entertainment center they had bought from them. I
Uh-huh.
was like, yeah, okay. So I was
Yeah,
like, I got to be somewhere else at 4 o'clock. I'll do whatever I can until then, but I got somewhere else I got to be. So we picked up the huge piece of,
yeah.
you know, home, home center equipment. So
Sometimes
it's a
it's
very cool
good
place.
not having a pickup truck anymore because nobody asks me to
Oh,
get stuff. But there are times where I miss having one. Just I
I understand
But
that
then of course
completely.
I don't buy a lot of big stuff anymore. You know, uh,
Yeah.
my girlfriend thinks we run a furniture store here, and she likes to buy furniture and refinish it, and
Yeah.
we have
I've
more
got a pickup.
furniture than house.
I understand that. I've got a pickup truck in my side yard that might as well say I don't have a pickup truck because pretty sure it needs to be sent to salvage, but I haven't taken it to my mechanic for him to confirm it.
Yeah.
So I kind of like knowing it's out there, but I also can't really drive it, so I need to just cut it loose. But that's one of those things I'm having a hard time. I haven't had it that long, but I've probably had it maybe 10 years, whatever. And it's like I'm gonna miss that guy, that
Yeah.
truck. I paid $1,700 for it, and it's been a good little truck. But I think it's finally time to cut it loose. I'm gonna miss driving it though, so
Yeah. Well, it's
I'm
manly.
just
It's a
dragging my
manly
feet.
thing, and you don't want
Yeah,
to
you
let
gotta have
go
a
of the
truck.
manly things
I
because
think everybody should have a truck.
yeah,
Man, woman. I shouldn't say child because they don't need one, but
yeah,
Man and woman all should have trucks. They should all have overalls and they should all have trucks. That's my
Bad part
opinion.
about trucks where is people always ask me to move their stuff for them,
Yeah, that's
and
no good.
I can't lift things anymore. I'm fragile since I've got older. It's just not for
Yeah,
me.
I'm
Everybody's
also
like,
stiff from.
yeah. Everybody's like, you want to get in the wrestling ring? I'm like, no, no,
Absolutely
I don't
not.
want a bump.
No,
I'm not going to take a bump. Are y'all out of your minds?
yeah, that's the exact opposite of what I want. I want to sit in a nice, comfy chair for as long as possible
Yes, yes. Can I
and
get
be
a?
left alone.
Can I bring a recliner to your show? Is that possible?
Yeah,
Can like y'all have me like a theater seat there, away
yeah.
from the action?
I need to talk to Matt about that. I might see if I can make that happen at Action. I need a recliner. Just
Yeah,
get me a recliner.
yeah.
I'll
Give
bring
me
the recliner, as
general
a matter of
admission.
fact.
General admission. I can bring my own chair if I want to. I don't want to get I don't want people flying at me. That was the thing about going to WWE shows is you never knew when they were going to fly out on top of you.
Hey, I stopped to tweet one time because I can't remember what match it was. I thought they'll keep this in the ring. Within about 45 seconds, they were at my feet.
Yeah.
So, yes, I know exactly what you mean by an AWC, but that is such a cool environment.
Yes. Yes. I miss the
Oh,
Merryland Event Center. I wish they were still running
yeah,
there.
yeah, that was
That
a
was
cool
cool.
place. I like that place. The opera's a pretty cool place too.
Opera's cool. I
So,
saw an amazing Roar show there. Roar. Am I saying Roar? I don't know if I'm
yes, roar.
delivering it right. It doesn't ever sound. It doesn't sound right when you say it. But I love that show. That women's show they did there at Opera.
Yeah,
The first one was so dynamic. And then you meet Camilla Kane, and she's on the NWA show now.
yeah,
And you meet Thunder Rosa, and you meet all these Isla Dawn, who's on the pay per
yes,
view that's going on right now.
yeah. She's
And
incredible.
there was a guy that's up around north end of Atlanta, and he was asking, "Well, who do people what wrestling is going on?" I'm like, "Look, Atlanta's jam packed full of wrestling.
Right.
You just got to know it's there."
Yep. Well, yeah. There's a lot of wrestling that doesn't do a good job getting it out on social media. A lot of wrestling doesn't do a good job getting it out locally, with
Yeah.
flyers and whatnot. So
Well, a
that's the
lot of
shame
people
of it.
are
But
hung up on flyers, and it's like flyers are great, but you have to pay to print them, and then you have to go put them out. But if you put stuff on
yeah,
social media, it's free. So you got to hit
yeah.
every single market these days. You got to market to the masses, and social media is free.
I try to walk that very fine line of not being completely irritating about it, but like I try to keep it out there as best I can. Like right now, Action's not doing another show until December 7th, so I'm gonna pump the brakes on that a little bit. I, I'll give my social media followers a little bit of a break, but I'll be at pumping it. But it's just because it's a product I believe in, and I think people who come to the shows will enjoy themselves.
Yeah.
That's all. That's the only reason.
Yeah.
Other than that, I have no reason to do it.
Yeah, it's not like we're getting rich doing this stuff.
No,
You know,
no,
have
no.
full time jobs, but this is something we do on the side for fun.
Yeah, and one thing, it's funny you hit on that because I was talking to Jeffrey Taylor. Do you know Jeffrey Taylor?
Yeah,
Jeffrey
yeah.
Show Live? Yeah, great guy.
Here's a hoot.
And I said, here's the thing about my thing. Like South Atlanta wrestling is not. There is no avenue for me to make money. So me getting exposure is not about like I'm not. It's I lose money on it because I got to register the
Yeah,
domain name,
yeah.
and I don't recoup any of that. So it's just something I enjoy doing. Like I'm not making money off
Oh,
this. I have never
we
monetized the
make
site.
a little bit of money. I can't lie,
Yeah, yeah,
but
that's fine. Nothing wrong with it.
that's I mean, it's a lot of expense and it's a lot of
Yeah,
love.
yeah,
You make a lot of drives, you go to shows, you buy your tickets, you buy something like a microphone or a headset, or you do something and
sure.
you do it because you love it.
Yeah,
You do it
absolutely.
'cause you love it.
And and there's nothing wrong and nothing at all wrong with monetizing it. I have no like Jeffrey, Jeffrey Show Live. I'm like that dude. I respect the heck out of his hustle.
He hustles.
My
He hustles like no
yeah,
one I've seen before.
yeah. And my point about it is just that when I'm sitting there obnoxiously sharing stuff to my site, it's not about me. Like there, I'm not getting like I'm not getting anything of it from it. Just other than it makes it worthwhile for me. Like it's kind of demoralizing to like sit down like and write something you think is really good, and then six people look at it. That's it.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And then with it, when I'm pushing a particular show or whatever, I just want people to go to the show.
Yeah.
Come to the show with me. Come shake my hand.
Yeah.
Say hello. Let's have a conversation. If you don't want to do any of that, avoid me. Whatever. But just come to the show.
I've written a couple pieces before. I wrote a piece for our website, and I wrote a piece for another website. I don't even think they're in business anymore. Uh, I kept trying to write pictures, write posts for Sportskeeda, that big website. They kept asking
Yeah.
for people to write articles, and they're like, "Why don't you just do recaps and slideshows?" And I'm like, "But you asked me to write something. You didn't
Yeah.
ask me to do slideshows, but I turn in something I like really enjoy doing, and you want me to do a slideshow about it so you can get
Yeah. It's,
clickbait."
yeah. And that's the thing. Like, and with South Atlanta wrestling, I've just gotten to the point if I don't enjoy doing something, I don't do it. I
Yeah,
don't do
exactly.
recaps anymore. I
No,
don't do
recaps are
recaps.
horrible.
I'm not
They're
going to sit there
dead.
and give you, well, this match was, I'm not good enough at it to make it worth my trouble, like, because nobody cares.
Yeah.
And I just don't enjoy doing it, so I ain't doing it.
Yeah.
That's
Well,
just
Larry
as simple
Goodman
as that.
handles that for everybody and everybody else. You know.
Yeah, that's what I like doing. I like, oh, did Goodman review this show? Great. Let's link to that. Here you go. This is what Goodman thinks about it. Here's what I enjoyed about being at the show,
Exactly.
but I'm not recapping the show for you.
The cool thing
Just
about Goodman is and it's like you hear Bruce and Bruce Pritchard talk on the show, and then you hear other people talk about attendance at shows. Well, there's what the promoter tells you the show draw, and there's what Larry Goodman told you the show draws.
right.
Somewhere in the middle is what the show actually drew. But
Yeah,
it's like he's the Dave Meltzer of Georgia.
yeah. Let's see if we can get Goodman to figure out how many people are in the Silver Dome, for
Yes,
WrestleMania
exactly,
3. Let's get him on that
exactly.
case
Because I
because
guarantee
I'll
you,
go with
he'd
him
come up with
over.
a number.
He'd
He'd have a
definitely come
number.
up with a number. Yeah, he's not afraid to come up with a number, right?
Nope, nope. But
Yeah,
I appreciate all the hard work he does, because
yeah, absolutely.
that's got to be a labor of love to put that much content and go to that many shows out there.
Yeah, I couldn't do it. I mean, the idea of making that many shows just makes me hurt, like physically already.
Yeah,
And I love wrestling. I love wrestling, but like if I had a show to go to every week, man, I couldn't handle it. I
yeah.
could not handle it. Like 40 years old.
My relationship wouldn't handle it.
No.
It's like,
Yeah.
you go to wrestling every weekend, you're off, and I'm like, what?
You know, I think honestly, like even if I was single, I don't know that I could do it, but like I certainly couldn't expect my wife to
No.
sit around while I go to like she'll go to some shows with me and that's
Oh,
awesome and
mine
we have a good
won't
time.
at all.
Uh, Now my wife,
No.
if you catch the couple of action shows that are on Powerbomb, I wasn't at the second one, but all the other ones, my wife's right there with me, so
Yeah.
that's cool. But like I just I love wrestling, but I can't. I just couldn't fit that in my schedule
Well,
every week. And
if it
I
becomes a job, you don't want to do it anymore.
yeah, and just like the conversation we just had about my site, I don't do recaps because it felt like a chore,
Yes.
and I don't have any interest in. It felt like a chore. Nobody read it, and it didn't matter if I posted it or not. So why bother?
Yeah.
Like let's
Oh
just do
yeah.
the stuff I enjoy.
Oh
So
yeah. I mean, there have been times where I'll do a YouTube video and 15 people view it,
yeah,
and it's like,
hey, and
why did
hopefully
I
some
do
of
that?
enjoy it. Yeah,
But I do it because I enjoy doing it, and I enjoy
right.
talking to wrestling people, and like having a chit chat with you tonight. This has been cool. You know,
Yeah, absolutely.
it's a good conversation. I meet more people, and I get more involved in something I love. And wrestling's one
Yeah,
of those hobbies that's very approachable. You know,
sure.
the people like you being there. You're buying tickets. They want to be nice to you. You can meet wrestlers all over Georgia. There's not many wrestlers in Georgia that I haven't actually sat down and talked to
Right.
because
Yeah,
they're
it's
cool. They're nice.
yeah. And back to the scenic city aspect of it, like that's when I figured out. I said I need to go to these shows, and just need to meet people that are like me.
Yes.
And I've made some great friends, like friends that live out of state, online friends,
Hmm.
and just because I was just willing to, instead of just going to the show, watching the show, and leaving, like say, hey, I'm so and so from Twitter. You
Yes.
may or may not know me. It's nice to meet you. It's
Exactly.
made my enjoyment of the of wrestling so much. I enjoy it so much more now. Like the funniest one from last Scenic City is this one guy who I'd seen at some shows. I'm standing outside my hotel room. Norco's inside the hotel room. I'm just standing there, And he walks up to me and like I don't even remember who said something first. We just start talking. Next thing you know, we're sitting over at the diner, me, him, and Norco, sitting there
Mhm.
just BSing about wrestling, and it was great.
Yes.
Didn't know this guy from anybody
Yeah.
before that, other than he looked somewhat familiar from some shows. You know,
Amen.
now we're friends on Twitter, friends on Facebook, and it's like, oh, great guy. He's
It's
getting
like
he's
a
getting married
brotherhood.
soon.
It's like a
Yeah,
brotherhood.
it's it's
Uh,
so very cool. It's like I find out once this guy friends me on Facebook that his girlfriend, who I got to meet at the wrestling show, that they're engaged now. I'm like, man, good for you.
Mm-hmm.
happy times. And that's just because I happened to be staying outside my hotel room at the Best Western Heritage Inn,
Yes.
in Chattanooga. Made a friend just because I was standing outside and he knew I was there for wrestling.
Mm-hmm.
How cool is that?
Yeah, you can't beat that. You can't beat that. It's a really a good community of people where I make all these friends from all different walks of life. You know,
Sure.
from somebody in Atlanta to somebody up in Cornelia, and you realize, oh, this is in common. Oh, we know this person. Or this person knows this person. It's like, yeah, it's wrestling fans are a great group of people.
Yeah,
Um,
I think by and large that's absolutely true.
yeah.
Did you ever go to NWA Wildside shows?
No, I did not. Because here's the
Okay.
problem. I moved to Gwinnett in '98, and I was actively going to WBE shows, and I did not have any idea there was indie wrestling
Uh,
in Georgia.
that's that's part of where the site's name came from. We started making the trip up to Cornelia for NWA
Yeah,
Wildside shows after they had Jerry Lawler at the International Horse Park in Conyers.
yeah,
So after that, we drove up to Cornelia to see a show, and they said, after we went there, Norco's got a big personality, so
uh,
they started noticing our group.
yeah,
Oh, these guys are here every week, whatever, or every other week, every show,
yeah.
and so somebody said we need to come up with a name for y'all. He goes, I guess we could be the Atlanta Boys, which is obviously Scott Hudson's group or
Uh,
those guys from back in the day. So they said we can't be that. He said y'all can be the South Atlanta Boys. So it's like okay, so we're the South Atlanta Boys. That's kind of where the name came from for the site. I kind of grabbed it from there.
oh, that's cool. That's cool.
But I had a long lull. I had a long break from indie wrestling at when Wildside went out of business. I don't think I went to another one till like 2015 or something like that. Like
Yeah.
10 years
Well,
of just no
everybody I
independent
know has
wrestling.
taken a break from wrestling
Yeah.
at one time in their lives. They something happened, your life changes, or you're doing something different, and you get out
Yeah.
of it. But we always come back to the, you know,
Yeah. And for me, like my break from wrestling in general was probably like 1 or 2 years when I was going from like, elementary to middle school. I still followed it, but I just wasn't,
yeah,
following it as closely. But I got back into it big time around the Nitro era.
mm-hmm.
And then, like I said, the independent wrestling thing, I can't remember what year we started doing the Cornelia shows for NWA Wildside, but when that promotion ended and it became it became Anarchy, I think, after that. I didn't go back and like I had a 10-year period where I was watching WWE, but I wasn't doing no
Yeah.
independent shows whatsoever. So
I
I
recommend
think we went,
back up there to Landmark because they have done amazing things with that building.
yeah. Yeah, we did go for the Wildside reunion show. That was pretty cool.
Oh wow, yeah, they've even changed it since then. That place
Yeah,
changes every time I go there because they're constantly trying to improve the product.
yeah. I respect that.
I watched their pay per view last night. Their Fright Night pay per view, $10, basically the same price as a ticket. I couldn't
Mm-hmm.
get up there because Georgia, Florida was yesterday, and we were all doing all this stuff, and everybody had been sitting around drinking beer. So I came back to the privacy of my own home, and I and it was really nice. Uh, they let me do commentary on a show up there for NCW, and man, that was so cool.
That's very cool.
They're seriously committed to the best production they can possibly do,
I
and that's good
respect
to
that.
see.
Yeah, they're
Indie wrestling's going by pretty quick right now. It's changing and it's becoming a more and more like the WWE and Impact and all the other stuff. You're getting to see better product every week.
yeah. It seems like people are figuring it out to some degree.
Yes.
Getting away from some of that old nonsense and starting to really
Yeah.
figure out what they need to do with some of these promotions where you can tell they're clearly working together instead of against each other and all that
Yes.
stuff.
Yes.
You gotta respect it. So I love that that's going on. It's you know
Just like the NWA.
obviously the business. Yeah, absolutely.
They should
And
be
then,
working together.
yeah. So it's good to see.
Well, David,
It's
it's
all
really
good
been
for the business.
yeah, it's been a pleasure talking to you tonight.
Yes, sir. Same
Cool.
same
I
to
look
you. I'm
forward to
glad
seeing
you.
the shows. I'm glad to have you on. I'm glad I can do something like this and get to meet more and more wrestling people.
Yes,
Uh,
sir.
where you going to
Appreciate you
be?
having me on.
You got an action show in December, you said. You going to go to
Yep.
any shows
Right
between now
now,
and then?
I think honestly, going back to that schedule thing, I think December 7th for Action, November 17th for Scenic City Trios,
Uh,
and then I may not go to another show until Action's back, like February 8th, and then March 22nd.
okay,
So
okay. Well, where
that may be the only.
tell the folks
Huh?
about your website.
Okay, it's southatlantawrestling.com. Talk mostly WWE, a lot of wrestling figures, a lot of action wrestling. I always tell people that action wrestling and Roman Reigns are the only things that move the needle on that site, and it's fairly accurate.
Well,
So
that's what covers.
not
That's
gonna,
what you get, man.
that's what people like apparently, at least from me. So
Yeah.
that's my specialty: action wrestling, Roman Reigns, and some wrestling figure talk. So
Yeah.
that's good with me. So obviously the Roman talk will kind of be on the back burner. There's not going to really be much to talk about until we find out how the big guy's doing. The big
Gotta
dog.
get
Hopefully
the best
he's
wishes for him.
yeah, yeah. I just hope he beats this thing. I'm not even fantasy booking a return or anything yet. I just let's find out that he's he's whipped it again. First let's
Yes.
worry about that because he's
Yeah.
a husband and father. And I don't say that to be like pious. I'm just saying that's literally where kind of my mindset's at. I'm not even gonna get ahead of myself. As far as I'm concerned, I'm just going to assume he's not coming back, and let's just worry about getting him healthy.
Yeah.
So let's
Amen.
let's have that happen for his family's sake. So
Amen.
yeah, but yeah, that's it. So anything you need to know about action wrestling, I'm the unofficial archivist.
Okay.
I would be the official, but Matt says he doesn't have any money to give me, so I have to be unofficial.
Well, I'm gonna
Yeah,
get out to one of those shows. I'm
absolutely.
dying
Come
to
on
get to
down,
see
man.
one. My schedule at work is crazy. I work
Yeah,
day on, day off, so every other weekend, that kind of thing, and so it's kind of retail is crazy. But
yeah, I understand.
I will get out to
I'd
one of the shows. I'm dying to see one.
I'd love to see you there, man. And I'd
Yeah.
tell anybody like one of the reasons I try to wear the Alabama hat every show I go to is just so if somebody sees me and says, "Oh, I think that's the guy I've been tweeting with," like, yeah, I'm the guy you've been tweeting with. Like, come on over and say hi. And I've literally had people do that. Like at Scenic City, a guy walked up to me that I tweeted with for like years, and he's just kind of standing next to me. And I look, and he's like, "Hey, I'm so and so." I'm like, "Hey, man, what's up?" So he recognized me because I had taken a picture. This is what I'm wearing at the show tonight. Come say hi. Not because
Awesome.
I'm important, but just because I want to meet you.
Yes,
I'm not important, but I would love to meet you. So hopefully we find ourselves at a show together very
we will
soon.
definitely.
And give you a handshake and all that, and we can BS
Because
about some wrestling. All
I
right?
saw Matt at the last Southern Fried Show, so he's coming up to
Yeah,
see our stuff. So I will try to
yeah,
get down there.
awesome.
Cool. Have a good
Yeah,
night, man. I really appreciate you coming on.
all right. Yes, sir. Thanks for having me. Take
Thanks.
care.
You too. Bye bye.
Bye.